Kolchak, the Night Stalker, or The Old Man Was More Badass Than Imagined. This series focused on investigative reporter Carl Kolchak, portrayed by Darren McGavin, who many of you may recognize from his role as Ralphie's dad, aka the Old Man, from the cult holiday classic A Christmas Story. He lives and works in Chicago for the independent news service with his editor Anthony Vincenzo, portrayed by Simon Oakland. But creepy stuff happens in Chicago. It's up to Kolchak to save his home. Stupid reporter, you made me look bad. Booga booga booga! This series started as a made-for-TV movie called The Night Stalker. Set in Las Vegas, the movie followed our hero, Carl Kolchak, as he searched for a lead on the serial killings of prostitutes in the streets of Vegas, only to eventually discover the killer was a vampire. This was soon followed up by a sequel, The Night Strangler, which found Kolchak in Seattle, Washington, on the trail of another serial killer of supernatural origins. Then came the TV series, set in Chicago, and found Kolchak on a trail of several other supernatural entities stalking the streets of Chicago. I live in Illinois, so yeah, he's fighting on the home turf. Now let me explain something here. Like so many entries on this little series that I'm fulfilling for one of my subscribers, when I first started watching this series, it was at a very young age. Too young to even tell the lead actor was also starred in my family's Christmas film tradition. All I could really tell was that there was this reporter in a straw hat and a very cheap suit going around investigating acts committed by ghosts, goblins, and various other monsters. And I could also tell that he was often afraid of those things that he came across. Of course, he would eventually come to the decision that he was tired of being a victim, or a potential victim, and actually gather the equipment needed to vanquish the monsters of the week and go up to conquer them. That actually had a huge impact on me as a kid, as it taught me to stand up to that which I was afraid of. Needless to say, because of Carl Kolchak, the monster under the bed was sent packing. The series also had a huge impact on me growing up, as it is one of the few mediums that got me into journalism. If you lasted as long as the beginning, then you recall in the very first episode of Penguins Rock Productions that I made mention of a history in radio broadcasting. I was a news broadcaster, and it was my job to deliver the news to the listening public. Though true, I was in radio, and Kolchak worked for the newspapers. Still, I wouldn't have had that job if it wasn't for Kolchak instilling a desire into pursuing and delivering the truth. Not my fault that nobody really reads newspapers anymore. This series didn't have a lasting effect on me alone, though. It had an effect on a lot of future TV shows that followed suit. Shows such as The X-Files, Twin Peaks, the previously reviewed Erie, Indiana, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, its spin-off Angel, Sleepy Hollow, Stranger Things, and even my most commented show, Supernatural. I know, this is like the third time I mentioned the series in this little review cycle I'm doing here. I really wouldn't, though, if 1, I didn't think it was such a great show, and 2, I didn't see the little influences here and there. And true to form, it's difficult to think of any of these shows existing without Kolchak, the Night Stalker. Now, I should mention that this series did revive in the form of a remake back in 2005 simply titled Night Stalker. In this revival, Kolchak was portrayed by Stuart Townsend, who you may recognize as Lestat from the 2002 film adaptation of Queen of the Damned, and Dorian Gray from the 2003 film adaptation of The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Actually, I don't recall either of those films doing particularly well, so if you don't recognize him, I'll understand. Actually, this remake series has Kolchak a little more involved as he's motivated by the death of his wife, which he didn't have in the original series. To be honest, I saw the whole series. The whole remake series, I mean. I didn't think it was that bad. Didn't really feel like Kolchak the Night Stalker, but at least it wasn't a total imitation. Maybe it would have done better if it tried being its own thing instead of a remake to something else. Next week on Penguins Rock, we're roaming into BBC territory about a man in conflict with himself. See you then!